Hello and welcome to another SHM movie review, and as you'll have seen from the title, in this particular review and breakdown we are discussing a 1996 movie by the name of The Ghost and the Darkness. Now, despite what the name of the film would suggest, this is not about ghosts. In fact, The Ghost and the Darkness are actually the names of two man-eating lions. And interestingly enough, these lions are not fictional. They actually existed, and the film is based in some ways on true events. It's not a completely true retelling of the actual events of 1898 in Kenya, Tsavo specifically, but it is kind of based on some of the events. The main character was the actual character in the situation, and the lions were real, and they were man-eaters. Now, the story revolves around two primary characters played by Michael Douglas and Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer is the main character. He is overseeing the design and building of a railroad, including a bridge in Tsavo, Kenya, and Michael Douglas plays a game hunter who is brought in to help against these lions who are killing people and terrifying the workers, understandably so. Now, the film did okay commercially. It had a budget of 55 million, it made 75 million at the box office. Critically though, it's a very mixed bag. It did win an Academy Award for sound editing, but it's very mixed as far as reviews. Some really like it, some really don't. Personally, I like the film. The fact that the lions actually existed and were like the way that they're presented in the film, not visually, but in the way they acted, the way they moved, the way they worked together, that's cool. Films that revolve around creatures, monsters, some following presence of a threat, is always going to be more effective if it's based on a reality. And that adds a lot of weight to The Ghost and the Darkness as these real lions. And you can actually see these lions in a museum to this day. Now, going to the breakdown of the film, first of all we have the story and plot. Now, the story and plot of the film is, as I already said, partially based on real events. There is a lot of filler and a lot of aspects that were not in the real-life account. The amount of people who were killed by the lions is varied. Different accounts say different amounts, and the character of Michael Douglas, as far as I can tell, did not actually exist in the real situation. So they have taken some liberties as far as the story goes, but it certainly doesn't affect the film adversely by adding him. He's a good actor, he's convincing in the role, and the two main characters of Val Kilmer and Michael Douglas are very easy to root for. They're interesting characters, not the deepest of characters necessarily, but interesting enough, and you actually care for the people in the film. You don't want them to die. The fact that the lions were real adds more, not necessarily emotional weight to the film, but it does add more weight to the deaths that do happen. So for the story and plot, it's not the most complex of plots, but the real aspects of it do really add with the punch that the film has. So for the story and plot, I'm actually going to give it an 8, because as far as scary movie creatures go, these are real, and that helps the film a huge amount in my book. As far as the characters and their motivations, well, as I alluded to just now, they're not necessarily the deepest of characters, but they're easy to root for, they're likeable actors, and everyone plays their role in the film, from major to minor actors, very well. So for the characters and their motivations, I'm going to give it a 6, because they're not amazing, but they're certainly better than many other films that come out, both older and newer. As far as the visuals and visual effects, there aren't a huge amount of visual effects, kind of like with the 13th Warrior, but in a similar way, the effects that are used, especially in the lion attacks, are very, very effective. The gore is sometimes held back on, but sometimes not so much, and that's good. because it illustrates more just how ferocious and how formidable real lions can be. It's easy to assume that they're just a big cat that you could probably kill without too much trouble, and that's just not the case. Lions are formidable opponents, and they're a lot bigger than people think they actually are. And this film presents them in that light, exactly as they should be, as formidable predators, especially when there are two of them working together, and lions which are highly intelligent. So, for the visuals and effects, especially of the lion attacks, I'm going to give the film a 7. It's not the most amazing thing ever, and there isn't a huge amount of rich visual effects, but when they are used, they are good and they are effective. As far as the audio and music, the music is good. The sound is very effective. As I mentioned earlier, it did win an Academy Award for its sound editing, so it's obviously not going to be bad. And for the audio and music overall, I'm also going to give it a 7 again. Finally, for the rewatchability and entertainment factor, which, as I've mentioned before on the channel, is the most subjective to me personally of the 5 categories, I'm going to personally give it a 7 out of 10, because it's not necessarily the kind of film which you'd immediately think of watching when you want to sit down and watch a movie, but it's the kind of film that, especially if you haven't watched it in a while, you could quite happily pop in and watch again and enjoy very much. So, the overall tabulated score for The Ghost in the Darkness, in my book, is a highly respectable 3.5 out of 5. Overall, the film is certainly not a failure commercially, but you don't really hear people talking about it that much, and you get the impression that a lot of people haven't got around to seeing it. So my personal verdict for the film would be that if you like creature features, films that are based on real killers or real creatures that killed people, it's definitely one of the better in that category. As far as animal attack films go, I would say it's definitely one of the best, because often films like that tend to have characters that do stupid things, or that are very annoying. In this film, that's not the case. The decisions that the characters make are easy to support, easy to follow, and they're easy to root for. So I definitely recommend checking out The Ghost in the Darkness if you haven't had a chance to do so already. But that's it overall for this particular review. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.